equation is a math sentence. It has a verb, it has some action. An expression is a math phrase. Like x plus 3. Nothing's happening, it's just a phrase. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start solving equations. Should I put Rusbin on the spot? What does solve mean? We solve equations. You've been doing it for a long time. Do you even know what you're doing? I'm going to solve this equation right here. I'm going to tell you x is equal to 4. Did I solve it right? Why not? Because what? Doesn't make it true. It's exactly right. You hit the nail right on the head. Excellent. Solve means I want to find the number or numbers, could be more than one, that make the sentence true. You know what solve means? Math is easy. Algebra is easy. To find all the numbers. There may not be any. Now, I don't like to write the word number, so I use the number symbol. And when I use a symbol you've not recognized, just say something, because sometimes I forget. So I want all the numbers that make the sentence true. When I first started teaching algebra, I thought it mattered that I actually go through all the steps on solving. No, it doesn't. There are steps to solve when you can't see what makes it true. If I take x plus 3 equals 6, I'll bet you everybody in here can tell me what number makes that true. 3. X is equal to 3. If I put 3 in there, it makes a true statement. So I've solved it. Now, I didn't go through any steps on solving. And what's something else that you need to, and I know it seems really picky, but you need to realize is when I go through the solve process, when I go through the steps, I want to undo the adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. These are one steps. So if I want to get rid of adding 3, what is the opposite of adding 3? It's called an inverse, by the way. Subtracting 3. Well, I got to be fair. Mickey, Minnie, you give a bone to one dog, you got to give a bone to the other dog. Actually, you got to do it to all 3 dogs. Otherwise, they get really upset. So we got to be fair. If I subtract 3 here, I better subtract 3 here. Now, do I care if you write that out? Absolutely not. I don't care. I want to see if you can solve this and get the correct answer. And so x is equal to 3. Now, I want you to think about this, and this is going to be really strange thinking. This equation here and this equation there, they are not the same equations. However, the number that makes this true is a candidate, no guarantee, that it makes that one true. So if I take this, whoops, and I say x squared, now let's do this. The square root, let's do this one. Square root of x is equal to negative 3. I want to find numbers that make that sentence true. Now, anybody have an idea how we would get rid of square rooting? What's the opposite of square rooting? No? No, that would be multiplying, dividing. What's the opposite of square rooting? It says the square root of what number is negative 3? You know what square root means? What number times itself? So if I say the square root of x is equal to 4, what number times itself? No? Am I thinking one? I'm thinking square. Yeah. Yeah. Square root of 2, square root of 2. Is that equal to 4? Is that true? No. What number times itself gives 4? Yeah, you're answering the question right. Okay, I want the square root of what number? How about 16? What's the square root of 16? That's 4. So 4 times 4 gives you that. What's the opposite of square rooting? Square it. Okay. This is what we'll be doing some of this, I think. We're going to square both sides here. Now, when I do that, I must use parentheses. I don't have a choice. Some of you don't want to use parentheses. You've got to. So what's this going to do? This is going to undo the square rooting, sorry. And negative 3 squared is what? 9. Now, what makes this one true? 9. 9 is equal to 9. Duh, right? Is the square root of 9, and this is a big question, is that equal to negative 3? Now, from previous classes, I hope you know the answer is no. I know a lot of people who don't know the answer to this, by the way. So don't feel bad if you don't. And I'm talking about math teachers. The square root of 9 is negative 3. That's not true. When we take square roots, we always take the positive one because I only want one answer. I don't want two answers. Now, is it 3 or is it negative 3? You know, depends on my mood. So this is not true. So 9 turns out to be a candidate, but it does not make the sentence true. In fact, you can't solve the square root of x is equal to negative 3. There's no number you can put in there to make it true. Not a thing. So these are not the same equations, but the numbers that make this one true might make that true. So I know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that. Well, we do because it's not that hard. Okay, so going back, how do we solve an equation? We want to get the variable on one side of the equation. The expression for that is isolate the variable. And we do inverse operations. So you have a spot there to write them down. What are inverse operations? I bet that moves. I bet I'm wrong. It's my eraser. That doesn't move? No, it doesn't. What's the inverse of adding? Subtracting. What's the inverse of multiplying? I'm going to have that go both ways, by the way. Because adding undoes subtracting. Subtracting then does adding. To get you back to square one, we undo things all the time. I knit. Sometimes I make a mistake, and then I have to take it all apart. If anybody fix cars, you take things apart, and you put them back together again. They're all inverse operations. What's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So that's how we undo things. And that's as much as we've really done in this class. If we square root, we square. We square, we square root. There are a lot of other inverse operations that you will learn in mathematics. Exponential equations, logarithms, there's lots of stuff. So when I get into calculus, derivatives, and antiderivatives. I have extra pencils. Anybody need one? That one? Okay. So I just want to undo this. Now, I don't care if you show the steps or if you just come up with the answer. I really don't care. Because if you can look at it and see what makes the sentence true, that's awesome. But trust me, we are going to come up with problems that are way harder than these. Now, especially when we get to negatives. So just to review, we want to undo the adding to. Now, if you have any problems with trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, what I do is I like to isolate the variable. I want that one all by itself. So what's the opposite of adding to? Subtracting to. Now, we're okay till we get to negative numbers. And I'm going to tell you right up front, if you can't do the negative numbers, use a calculator. My goal is that you can solve equations and get the answers correct. I don't care if you have to use a calculator. Well, this one's not too bad. What's 8 take away 2? 6. How do you know if it's right? Put it back in there. Does that make the sentence true? Yeah. I hated checking. Back when I did algebra, I had to check, and I hated it. But really, that's what you should be doing. I can just look at that. What's going to make that true? Can you tell me the answer without doing any work? Do. I'm okay with that. But you will mess up when you get to negative. So let's just practice a little. This is a process. If you need the process, use the process. When we get to parentheses and we get to fractions in our problems, you are going to need a process. Right now, no. I'm okay with that. Now, you could do the -1 on the one line. It's okay. Well, 1 minus 1 is going to give you nothing. What's 3 take away 1? 2. And you said it was 2 before, which is right. No big deal. Now things get a little trickier. Now we have positive and negative numbers. Feel free to use a calculator. I don't have any problems with that. But maybe I'll play the game. I got to get your hand up, though. I don't have it. Okay. Now I want y all by itself. So first I locate the variable. Some of you are more visual than others. I kind of like to see it circled, especially when it gets complicated. And I want y all by itself. What's being added to y? So what's the inverse of adding a negative 4? Subtracting a negative 4, but that's the same as adding 4. These have to give you 0. If you have any problems with this assignment, day 1, please let me know. Okay, you got to come in and get help right away. So this is y equals, now be careful, it's a negative 6 and a positive 4. I need to think of money, you can think of temperatures. Because pretty soon we're going to be there. It's supposed to be a bitter winter. 4 degrees and it drops 6. Where are we going to be? Negative 2. How can you check? Put it back in there. And I will put the answers up on Schoology. Now you won't necessarily have access since you won't have the code tonight. But I will have the answers there for you to check. Some of you will just copy the answers. When it comes to your assessments, you just have answer only. It's not something simple like this. Then you won't get full credit, if any. I think we're going to do Marzano in here too, but I'm not sure. Okay. It says something take away 2 is equal to negative 3. Now you can do it by inspection, just by looking at it, or we can undo it. What's the opposite of a negative 2? Positive 2. Check, is that 0? I'm going through this slowly, I think. It's okay, sometimes it's nice to have an easy day, right? So what's W equal to? Negative 3 and a positive 2. Negative 1. I always like to do everything in terms of adding, and then I don't have any questions. That's it. Easy? Should be easy. We're remembering from last year. Okay, Rusman, what about this one? I want z by itself. What operation is there between the negative 3 and the z? Operation, add, subtract, multiply, or divide. It's multiplying. What's the opposite of multiplying by negative 3? Dividing by negative 3. Where are we going to make the mistakes? I don't think it's in the, that's the math, by the way. Knowing to divide by negative 3, that is the actual mathematics. Doing the division is arithmetic. Use a calculator if you need to. What's a negative divided by a negative? Do you remember? A positive. My mom always said 2 wrongs never make a right. Well, they do in multiplication. 2 negatives make a positive. And I don't care if you write the plus, but 24 divided by 3 is 8. You guys a little rusty? Yeah, I get rusty over the summer. I do. Unless I'm using it. Well, this one's easy. Can you just look at this one and tell me what P is? This is close. 7 divided by 5. Divide by 5. So P is equal to 7. That was easy. How about the next one? And then the next one's even harder. We can't play the battleship game. You know why? Because we can play it on the smart board, and I have one iPad. We don't have our iPads. Not fair. Okay. How do you undo it? Well, if it's not a number you know, what do? Divide by 7. Now, if you do this and you give me the wrong answer, at least I know you're thinking right. You just don't know your arithmetic. And at the end of 6th grade, I was tutored in arithmetic because I was so bad at it. You don't think I'm a whiz at arithmetic? Because we didn't have calculators till I was a junior in college. We did everything paper, pencil, and we used slide rules. Okay, what's 42 divided by 7? 6. This one's a little trickier. You have to think about what it says. If I asked you to write it out in English, you'd be better off. It says some number is divided by 5. And when I divide that number by 5, I get 10. What's the opposite of dividing by that 5? Times by 5. So if I multiply that out, these 5s will reduce. We call it canceling. There are a lot of math teachers that don't like that. I don't have a problem with it. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 5 once. I want that number in front of x, which is called a coefficient. Comes from the Latin, which is coefficio. That's an E. I can write. See, I've even forgotten how to write on my smartphone. Which means to begin. A lot of words come from Latin. It saved me a lot. So x is equal to, I want the number in front of x to become a 1. So I multiply by 5 so it does. And so x equals 50. You could do trial and error. You could try 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. That doesn't work. Then you might try 10. Keep going. Eventually find it. Okay, now we have some negative numbers. Like I said, feel free to use a calculator. I have 6 calculators in my drawer. I do not want them to leave the room unless you ask me, because I'm already missing lots of calculators. What are you going to do? Divide by 3, you're going to do what? Times by 3. Really, anytime I do that, I really do need parentheses, although you can sneak by without them. Somebody said 12. What kind of 12? Negative 12. And then what about the next one? I don't have a watch. Negative m over 6 is equal to 3. I don't want a negative sign there. What should I do? Multiply by what? It's really this. Negative 1/6 of m is equal to 3. I don't want the negative. So I'm going to multiply by, somebody said 6. That's right. It's not going to be enough. So I'm still going to have that negative there. What kind of 6? A negative 6. If you have to do it in 2 steps, you do it in 2 steps. Who cares? And what's going to happen there? This is going to cancel out. I'm going to get a positive 1. And 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. You can use your phones for a calculator. I don't care. If you need a calculator, use one. I want you to have the right answers. How do you know if you did it right? Substitute back in and see if you did it right. Okay. I don't know how you play class battleship game. Does that work? But I got to get your worksheet. You could write down the website, Kia, Q-U-I-A, if you're interested. What's our computer skill? Should we start with easy? Hard? First day back, you want to do hard? Okay, start game. We'll leave the ships where they are. You can change it. Okay. Good. What are we supposed to do? Well, that's good, but I don't know what I need to do. It's battleship. Oh, there you go. Okay. Somebody want to come up here and do this? I'm just run away and get your worksheets because I don't have them. For some reason. Don't all jump at once. So yeah, you guys can do that. I'm just gonna pause my recording.